Sequences are one of the most important tools in a jazz musician's practice routine for developing technique, fluent improvisation, and fluidity over different keys, scales, and sounds. They're one of the most direct practice strategies for making you a better instrumentalist. So today, we're going to talk about what sequences are, and I'm going to give you 10 beginner sequences to make you sound like you know what you're doing. Let's get into it. So to get started on this, let's talk about what sequences are. A sequence is just a motif, which is just a group of notes like this, that then we repeat upwards or downwards. We can sequence something diatonically within a given key, like you just heard, or we could also sequence something moving within a set interval, like if I were to take that same first motif and sequence it moving in minor thirds. One of the great things about sequences is we can take a motif and sequence it in any different kind of scale. For instance, I could take that same motif and sequence it using my melodic minor scale. Or my harmonic minor scale. Or harmonic major scale. Or even my half-whole diminished scale. So why should we practice sequences? Well, firstly, sequences are a great way to develop technique on your instrument. If you practice sequences, it'll help you learn to play through all ranges of your instrument more fluidly, as well as to hear and perform intervals that you might not be as comfortable with at the moment. Secondly, sequencing is a great way to learn to get around in different key centers. If you're practicing sequences properly, which is in all 12 keys, you should very quickly find yourself being more comfortable with key centers that you currently are not. Thirdly, it's a great way to learn to get around different scale types that you might not be familiar with. If you have a hard time improvising using a harmonic minor scale, then taking a couple sequences through harmonic minor should help familiarize yourself with that sound and be able to better improvise whenever the need arises. I also want us to think a little bit about how improvisers use sequencing in their improvisations. If you listen to a great improvisation by someone like Michael Brecker, Miguel Zenon, or Wynton Marsalis, you'll often hear them take a sequence and maybe it moves up and up into the upper register and it's creating more and more tension, and then it releases when they finish their sequence and move on to another melodic idea. Another way we can use sequences is by using it to develop on a melody. So let's say you take a melodic fragment from the head of a song and then you sequence that. That can be a nice way to create melodic development in your solo. It's a great way to connect different ideas. Let's say that you have one melodic idea that you're playing with, and then you're moving over to another melodic idea over here, and you can use a sequence as a way to bridge the gap between those ideas. It's also a great tool when we're playing over a long stretch of a single chord or key center. So before we dig in, I want to talk a little bit about the sequences we'll be using in the rest of today's video. We have 5 ascending and 5 descending sequences. So for each ascending sequence, I tried to create an alternate version that's a little bit more comfortable for moving in the opposite direction. Secondly, all of our sequences today are purely diatonic, meaning there are no chromatic passing tones, and all use exclusively our major scales. Thirdly, all of the motifs we use in these sequences are only 4 notes, and all of the motifs take place within the interval of a fifth, meaning if you look at any one motif, you look at the distance between the lowest and highest notes of that motif, they will be less than or equal to the interval of a fifth. In today's video, we'll be doing each of these sequences in only one key, but if you're interested, there is a PDF available for purchase on my website, link in the description below, that includes all of these sequences in all 12 keys. Also on my website, you can find my previous materials from my other videos on jazz improvisation, as well as an inquiry form if you're interested in private lessons. Thank you very much. These first two sequences should be very simple, but are quite effective. For my trumpet players out there, this is the basis for the Clark's 2 study. That's 1, 2, 3, 1. And the opposite direction version, 3, 2, 1, 3. These next two sequences should have a very strong harmonic sound as they arpeggiate the triads moving through any of our major scales. 1, 3, 5, 3, or for descending, 5, 3, 1, 3. These next two sequences I like for a couple of reasons. One, it starts with a wider first interval, moving directly from the 1 to the 5, and then it kind of has a slick way of transitioning to the next starting note as it goes 1, 5, 4, 3, new 1, 5, 4, 3, or in the opposite direction 5, 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3. For our next set of sequences, these again feature a very strong harmonic sound as we'll be arpeggiating our major scale diatonic triads. In this case, starting on the third of each triad. So it will start with 3, 1, 3, 5, kind of pivoting down then up. And on the way down, kind of alternating the directions. So we'll be going 3, 5, 3, 1, 3, 5, 3, 1. This last sequence is maybe one of the most common motifs in all of jazz music, especially if you are aware of John Coltrane's solo on Giant Steps. This is 1, 2, 3, 5. 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 5. Or on the way back down, 5, 3, 2, 1, 5, 3, 2, 1. Here, towards the end of today's video, I want to talk about some things you can do with these sequences to take them a step farther once you feel you really got them under your fingers. Firstly, make sure you practice them through the full range of your instrument. as well as practicing them in different tempos and maybe with different articulations as well. And secondly, make sure that you're practicing them not just in our major scales, but using whatever other kinds of scales you're practicing. So maybe your melodic minor or harmonic minor or even your harmonic major scales would be great for practicing these sequences. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, I want to let you know that I am working on 2 more videos for intermediate and advanced sequences. So if you want to see more of this kind of content, go ahead and like and subscribe to this video so that you can see when I post that future content, as well as see my past videos on jazz improvisation. I also want to let you know that all of the materials from today's video are available for purchase on my website, link in the description below, as well as all of my materials from my previous videos. Also on my website, you can find a contact form if you are interested in private lessons. Thank you so much, and happy practicing.